Morning. My computer has this screen of death on it. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, sorry. My computer went to the blue screen of death right in the middle of the of getting us ready. So I welcome everyone who is here on time. I appreciate it. It'll save us from being interrupted in the middle of the presentation. Thank you very much. We'll get started right around 11. And once again, this is the CAE Designation Web Webinar, and I welcome you. My name is Portia Puzzi. I forgot to set the recorder, so I'm just summing it up quickly. We are recording today, and we will send you out an email with the link, not only for you, but share it with your colleagues, and that will come in a post-webinar email. So what we like to do, this is a panel discussion, and so I like to have you hear from the speakers so that you can start to identify their voices. So Denisha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Denisha Jackson. I am the CAE-CO Program Manager at NSA. Karen Loishner, who is also the CAE Program Manager for the four-year institutions, will be joining us soon. So if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them the best that I can. I'll say that for now. And I'll pass it to Fred. Is Fred next?
I think Vera's next.
Yes, I'm Vera Zdravkovic, and I work closely with the National Cyber Watch Center and am playing a leadership role in the CAE-2Y.
Hang on for a second, Fred. Fred, you're being selectively muted and unmuted.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Fred Kleibenberg. I was at CAE Cyberwatch, and I'm now helping people do their mapping of their knowledge units to their coursework.
And John, are you on? John Sands is with CASIA at Moraine Valley, and they have a lot of great resources on their website. He has been active in the support of this CAE effort to keep you all informed, and they have some great information on their website. So we just want to pass that on as a resource for you too. So what we're going to do is, when you registered, you gave us a lot of questions, and we are going to address those questions first. And if you have questions, you wouldn't mind please typing them into chat, and I will raise them for you. And then so we'll answer your questions. We'll take some extra questions, and then we'll give you some final thoughts. So the first question is, how different will this be from the previous qualifying application? What we're going to do is we'll have Denisha address the question, and then she'll pass it on to Dr. Z and Fred to add any extra thoughts. So Denisha, how about if you give us a start?
Sure. So I'm not sure how many of you are already familiar with the CAE program, but if you are new, then it won't be so difficult for you. We are starting something new this year, Core Knowledge Units, in which we're mapping your curriculum to the set of topics that a group has deemed necessary and I guess also optional for a cyber curriculum. If you are already CAE, you've already probably mapped to the CNSS standards, which we will no longer be mapping to. It will be replaced by these knowledge units. And if you do not have a copy of those, we'd be happy to get you a copy. I'm pretty sure Portia has some, and she may actually have it posted somewhere that you can actually download it. In addition to knowledge and for the 2Y schools, us having a center for IA and CD is also new. I added this to the criteria this year. It was actually only on the 4Y criteria, but I thought it was important that the 2Y schools also had this. So before you get too anxious, I want you to know that it does not have to be a physical center. We just want to make sure that you have some kind of organization or someone is present that shows that there is a Center for Cybersecurity or Information Assurance Cyber Defense in your institution. So this could be something as simple as having a website established where your students or future students or even other faculty members may go to as a resource for them. So you may post things like current events in cybersecurity or any upcoming cyber competitions that your students may want to participate in. But we thought it was important that if you're going to apply to be a Center of Academic Excellence, that if you receive that designation, that you have a face. That so people who may want to be a center can go to this place and seek help or see what it really means or see what an institution that is truly excellent in cybersecurity is doing to push cybersecurity at their institution. So this is basically just look at it as the face, as your CAE face for your institution. And the newest thing, and this is new for 2Y and 4Y, is student recognition pass. And when they changed that program this year, our leadership thought that it is most important that students are also recognized for completing those courses that follow the CAE 2Y or CAE knowledge in it path, because we want those students to be able to, all right, we're back. We want those students to be able to show that, hey, my school is a Center of Academic Excellence, and I took that path, which means that I have had the things, I've been exposed to the topics that's deemed necessary or required to become a CAE. So we want to know, is there a path that you carved out for your students, and if so, are you formally recognizing those students? So when they do try to get a job, it might be on their transcript, or they may have a certificate that proves that they've been through this path. So those are the three things that are new for the CAE criteria this year. I don't know, Dr. Z or Fred, if you want to add anything?
I might just add that in the student recognition path, remember that you may want to create a certificate which will be indigenous to your program and which would clearly and unequivocally state that the student has completed the CAE-approved curriculum. That way it's clear that they have followed the path, prescriptive path, and have done it. Because typically the graduation diploma doesn't recognize anything of that sort, specifically on the graduation, on the diploma, but you may want to issue it as part of the program, or the institution can issue it and you can share it during the graduation, whatever.
Terrific.
And the only thing I would like to add is about the KU mapping is I think it's much easier than doing the CNSS, and you'll see why when you look at the knowledge units.
Thanks, Fred.
And if I may add, this is Vera Zdravkovic, that the CAE-2Y newsletter, which is coming out next week, which will be electronically disseminated to all members of the National Cyber Watch Center, have an article by Fred Klappenberger in which he describes the KU mapping. Also, the next webinar will focus on knowledge units mapping. So you have several resources right on your hands.
So the next question is, courses to KU mapping is mandatory, right? Denisha.
Right. Yes, that's correct. There are, if you are a CY, there have been, I believe there are 11 KU topics that you are required to map to. If you are a CAE 4-year institution, there is an additional 5 or 6, and the CAE 4 years will also have to map to 5 optional knowledge units. So yes, it's mandatory. And unlike before, where you could do your CNSS mapping separate from the CAE application, it's all one application now.
And this is going to jump back, but Margaret said a message to everyone saying that in reference to what Dr. Z said about sending the designation, that says sending the letter or something from your institution that clearly states that your student has fulfilled the path that has been mapped by the CAE institution, the designation. Margaret said that she sent letters to all of her graduates stating the value of the education, and they're now receiving thank you letters from the graduates. So I just wanted to pass that on. That's a little piece of good news.
Good, thank you.
Okay, are the current knowledge unit mapping points the final ones? Denisha.
We collectively came to the conclusion that they are. We weren't quite sure what was meant by this question, but we believe that you're asking, will they change? And if that is what is being asked here, no, we don't plan for them to change anytime soon. We will be putting together a group that will review the KU periodically. And if you think there's something, as you're mapping, if you think there's something that you would like to share, or you think that there's something that's there that's maybe unfair at your level, you're more than welcome to push those comments towards us, and we will definitely make sure they're discussed once we assemble this group. And we plan to get this group together sooner than later. We would like to have them up and running by the time that we go to 50, which is in June.
Two things. Denisha, if you would keep your mouth closer to the microphone, you're fading in and out, and you have so much valuable things to say, I want to make sure we're hearing them all. And then Anthony said, although the courses to KU mapping is mandatory, must we meet every topic in the KU and address every outcome?
Yes. If it is if it's a core knowledge unit, yes. And even if it's not a core, in order to completely map to that KU, we would need to address every topic within. And I will say this though, if you're mapping to a KU and you do not have to have a course for each KU. You can map to a KU if that topic is being covered within one of your courses that you are already teaching. So don't think that you have to go out and add courses or anything like that. We just want to see that you're covering it somewhere in your curriculum along the way. And it also does not have to necessarily be something that you teach. If you have students that come in already with this knowledge, that's acceptable to say that this student got this knowledge from some kind of optional way, in some optional manner. If they went to a co-op or an internship where they focus on this topic, then it's okay to say that. So, I mean, I know some schools have internships built into your curriculum. So if that topic was covered there, or if you brought some speaker in to speak to cover that topic for 2 days, that's okay. You have the opportunity to provide a justification that says that.
Anthony says thank you. And Dr. Z and Fred, do you have anything more to add on this?
No.
Terrific. Margaret and Linda, I saw your questions. I'm going to save them for a little later in the presentation. What's considered evidence for the mapping process? Denisha.
Actually, Fred, if you wanted to to cover this, I can more than happy to do it, but I know Fred is our mapping expert, so he may have 2 cents to add here.
2 cents. First penny. Detailed course outlines are one of the best sources you can use. In fact, that's the one that I would recommend for demonstrating that your course meets the topics that are in each one of the knowledge units. You can also reference textbooks. But again, the detailed course outlines, if you do that, if you don't do detailed course outlines, I strongly suggest that you start doing them and use those. In terms of the other part, which is measuring outcomes, you want to cite the type of testing that you do. This isn't just for an awareness, at the awareness level. This is for having the ability that your students have the ability and are measured that they can actually apply what they have learned. So the type of exams that you give should focus on doing things rather than on true, false, or multiple choice type of things that are more about awareness. So you want to make sure that you can demonstrate that your testing instruments are taking them above the awareness. And you can do that with lab exercises, citing the lab exercises, or lab assignments that they are given. That, I think, would be a great way to demonstrate that. And so what you see on the slide right here, I would say outlines, put detailed in front of outlines, detailed course outlines, exams, assignments, the types of assignments, and the types of laboratory exercises to demonstrate outcomes.
And I just want to add one thing. What Fred has here, that only a description is required, not the actual artifact, that's very important, and that he makes a very good point there. We've been getting emails into the office saying, where do I upload the artifacts? Where do I prove that I'm doing this? Just that description is all that we need to provide. This application is an application that is full of trust, if I could put it that way. We trust that what you're telling us that you're doing is what you're doing. So if you're telling us that you're doing this lab exercise that's A, B, and C, we trust that that's what you're doing to demonstrate that objective or outcome. So you don't have to actually upload that artifact to prove it. I did see Stephen Miller's question about if a syllabus and an outline is the same thing. It is. Yes, I will answer it yes and no. Some schools, a syllabus may be more, have more policy on it, and so all their course information is provided in a course outline. So when you're inputting your course information, you have the ability to add your syllabus in addition to a course outline. It'll ask you, are both the same, and if they're both the same, then you don't have to upload both of them. But we do recognize that a syllabus can be different than a course outline at some institutions.
Great. I'm glad we were able to catch that question. So we have good news, and instead of me reading the question, Denisha, why don't you just announce it?
So if you are ready to map, or if you just want to peek around and poke around and see what it is that you're going to need to do, our website is now completely open for mapping as well as entering your CAE criteria. So if you do not have an account, you are more than welcome to use the address text at the bottom of the screen there and request that your school is added. If you do already have an account, you can actually log in and get started. I will say that we've added a few blocks to the system once you log in. If it's your first time, we're going to ask that you acknowledge your institution information and make sure that it's correct. So that will help me and Karen when it's time to, if you apply and you receive your CAE designation, it helps us when it's time to send letters out that you were approved and that type of thing. So if you could just verify your institution information once you get in there.
Wait a minute, Denisha, we're losing you. Try speaking closer to the microphone.
Am I close enough now?
No, it's fading.
Okay, let me see. Let me try something else.
And I apologize for the interruption, but what you're saying is so valuable. I just want to make sure that you can
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
No.
now?
It's
No?
pretty bad.
Yes?
I can hear you, but it's very quiet.
Okay, I'm going to call in.
Wait a minute, that one was good.
That one was great? Now? Yes? No? Maybe?
That's okay.
Okay. So I was saying, I'm not sure what else. I'm sorry. That's okay. I was saying, if you could just verify that your information is correct, or if you're new and you're putting in your information, if you could just make sure that you have a good address, that your president is still your president. The last thing I want to do is send a letter to congratulate you to the wrong president. So that will stop you before you can start entering any information, and we'll just have to acknowledge those things. But it's ready to go, and if you have questions, feel free to email us, and we can help you through it.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. Denisha, you want to call in? Your sound is fading in and out.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
So while Denisha's logging in, and once again, I apologize for the blackouts on my machine. My video driver is apparently incompatible with the new Microsoft update. So I'm getting inadvertent flashes on them. So I just wanted to share some information that Margaret shared about how she communicated that the letters to her graduates. She said she mailed the letter and also sent a copy to each student through email. She said to each email address that they had for the students. So that's how they communicated that recognition path to their students, so that they have that in writing and that they can pass that on to a future employer. Then I see a few other questions that I'll wait for Denisha to get back on, and I'll address those at the end. If there's anybody on here who's also been sending letters to their students, that'd be good to share too in chat. So Fred and Dr. Z, how else have the institutions been communicating that recognition path to their students and their graduates?
Well, in 2 or 3 different ways. One, first of all, the institution, CAE is an institutional designation. So consequently, being an institutional designation means that the degree received from that institution is a CAE degree, if it is in the approved program. That's number one. Number two, departments typically give out a certificate in addition to that recognition and say, this is a CAE approved program, we are a CAE to Y, in this case, institution, etc., etc. And that helps to the students show it to when they go for job interview or whatever. And thirdly, it always helps show the student, to give a student, as Margaret pointed out, either a letter or an email which summarizes the program that the student had, the fact that it is mapped to knowledge units, and the fact that it is lined up with the CAE program. I think these are the 3 different ways. I don't know, Fred, if you can think of any other ways.
That's correct. Exactly what you said. Those 3 ways are the only ways I know. The only ways that we ever did.
So I see a few call-in users. Denisha is one of them. You.
Yes, I'm back.
Terrific. So the next question we'll move on to, we'll continue on with our thread of the application. And it says, is the entire application for the designation done online?
Yes, the entire application is done online. Okay, let me ask, do you hear echo? Because I hear an echo.
It's, let me try muting the one.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. So the entire application can be done online, and as you see here, it does not have to be done in a single sitting. It provides a progress list. So as you're going through, if you're finished a section, we'll notate it with a check mark so you know you're done that part. You don't have to go back to it. And it's also coded in a way that you can't prematurely submit your application. So you'll have to complete each section before you can submit your application. And it'll tell you which KUs are core for you if you're a CAE 2Y or a CAE 4-year. It'll do things like that to try to help you along as well. I think that it also, I'm pretty sure that it also, if you want to declare a focus area, because you can also get recognized for having a focus area for this program, you can also it'll help you along with doing that as well. So you don't have to, it'll tell you exactly which KUs that you need for that focus area and that type of thing. And just while we're talking about the focus area, let me just say this. If you decide to do a focus area and you're a 4Y school, make sure that you identify that focus area in the beginning so that those 5 optionals that you have to map to, perhaps those 5 optionals can be those optionals that are included in that focus area, so you're not doing double work. So that's just a tip that I have for you in the event that you plan to map to a focus area as well. I know I burnt myself when I was testing the system, and I picked optional focus areas, and then when it was time for me to test, I picked optional KUs prematurely, and then when it was time for me to test the focus area, then I had to go back and map an additional 5, 6, or 7 knowledge units that I could have just mapped to when I was mapping to my optional. So that is something that to just keep in mind if you do plan on applying for a focus area.
Portia, this is Vera. If I may add, now that Denisha mentioned the focus area, I want to add that when you give certificates for the program to the students, make sure that you also identify the focus area that your institution may have chosen, because that is certainly not on the degree. And that way, if your focus area is forensic or some other area, you may want to issue a separate certificate clearly identifying the focus area that your institution has been approved for. And when you do so, make also sure that you say that this focus area has been approved by MSA. That way, everybody that sees that will know what the students have received.
That's a great point.
Yes, that's a very good point, Dr. Z.
Okay, and if I may go back to the previous slide, oftentimes when you're doing this, you may think, well, I just finished that section, and then later, a couple of days later, you learn something new or you remember something that you didn't put down. You can always go back to it and add, because the editing is still permitted until you're completely done and you click on submit and it's done and finished. So don't think that just because you just finished a section that you cannot go back. Denisha, am I correct in saying that?
You are very correct. And even if you are one of those institutions that wanted to start, because some institutions contacted us and say, well, we're waiting for the mapping, can we go ahead and start our CAE program requirements portion? And we said, most definitely you can. So if you were one of those institutions and you already finished your criteria, and now that the KU mapping is available, you still can go back into that criteria and adjust or make any edits that you need to.
So then the follow-up question is that especially since this is a group of current designees, is the material on the website for the redesignation from the previous application, and are those materials accessible?
And yes, it is. So if you have already been in the system, and I'm talking about the newest system that we've had for the last 3 years, if you've already been in there and you've added courses, or you actually completed a CAE application prior, those things will be in there for you. The courses will all be there. However, it will be your responsibility to make them active. So you don't necessarily have to use the courses that are in there unless you want to. So if you'd like to use CS 102, then you can just edit that course, scroll down to the bottom, and make that course active. And then it'll be available for mapping your KUs.
If I may, let me see if I'm correct in saying this. I believe I am. That for some of the criteria are the same in the previous and this application. However, due to the time lapse from the time you completed that original or previous application, you may want to look at it. For instance, how is cybersecurity infused throughout the institution? And you may have talked about different modules which were developed. I'm just using hypothetical examples. Modules that were developed that are used in health area or business area or language arts or science. You can use that, and if something else has happened in between that time and now, you can add it. Likewise for the outreach. Maybe at that time when you applied, you had a couple programs, but now you added a new one where you work with high school kids, or your students mentor high school kids or middle school kids. You may want to add that. Isn't that correct, Denisha?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. And I mean, anything you've done above and beyond the last time you submitted your CAE application, you definitely want to include that, because that's what we'll be looking for, is growth in your program. So that's correct.
Are there any questions related to that? That seemed like a very rich discussion. And does anyone have any questions they want to tag on to that? So will these submissions replace the existing courses that were submitted for INFOSEC 4011 through 4016?
Will these submissions replace? So those courses will still be available in the system. So if you, as I just said, if you submitted courses to do your 4011 or 40 through 4016, those courses will be available for you to use to map to the KUs.
Okay, and so that still applies. You'll be mapping to the KUs rather than these 4011 to 4016.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but
does that answer your question?
This is where Fred and Denisha, isn't it correct that if those courses are now mapped to KUs, they may be exactly the same course, only you have to demonstrate that they map to KUs?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's going to be a lot easier to map to the KUs. I don't even know how useful it's going to be to use the old courses except for the information about the courses that was previously entered. But as far as the mapping is concerned, I think it's going to be easier probably to scrap the actual mapping portion of it and just look at the new KUs to do it. I mean, that's my opinion.
Right, and if you did need to go back to see what you put in for 4011 through 4016, you can find that under your submission history. I mean, I understand that a lot of 4011 is covered with the KUs that we put together, so maybe you just want to go through what you submitted for 4011 and try to find some similar topics with the courses that you use, but I agree with Fred. We have been hearing that it is much easier to map the KUs than it was to map the standards.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely.
Well, that's good news.
It is.
So, this is a completely, it's related, of course, but it takes us to on a different path. It says, what certificate is best for this area? So when we got this question in, we weren't really sure what you were meaning, but we were thinking that you meant that you would create for your students. If whoever asked that question wants to put up in chat, if I'm going down the wrong path, that'd be great. But in the meantime, we'll cover it. We'll answer it the way we thought that the way you were asking it.
Yeah, so this is just basically what we thought you were asking is what we've been talking about so far this morning, that student curriculum path and making sure that you're recognizing the students so they can too benefit and market what they have learned to hiring managers or another school or that type of thing. If I'm off base here, please let me know.
Then there is a question about, is there any information on the CAE-CO?
So the Cyber Operations Program, the CAE Cyber Operations Program, is completely separate than our program. But you can find information regarding that program at the website that's listed there. Steve LaFountain is the person who runs that program for NSA.
Okay, so this is the point where I'm going to just remind you that we're going to be sending out a recording of this conversation as soon as we get the WebEx converted and loaded up to YouTube. We will send you an email with a link to this conversation. I understand that we have at least one listener who is having trouble with hearing every other word. I hope they're good words that you're hearing and they make some kind of sense to you. Otherwise, it'll be in the recording. And we'll also send you a link to next week's where we're going to really cover those criteria and the mapping process in depth. We want to make sure that you're aware of these resources. That the CAE program office, and we're going to post this PowerPoint presentation online too, so you can get to these names, get to these email addresses. The National Cyberwatch Center has information and past applications on the website for you to reference. Now, as we've discussed, they did map to the 4011 and 4013, but the good news is the KUs make the mapping process a little bit easier for those who have done it. Fred has been helping with mapping for a long time. If you happen to be on the West Coast, CyberWatch West, Queen Sandy has a lot of resources on her website, and Susan Sands has also helped with the mapping process a lot for Cassia, and she's glad to help you when she can. So I think that's our last question. So, last of the things that I wanted to be sure and tell you. So let me just get to one last question from one of our listeners. And then, please, if you have any questions, please type them into chat, and I will throw them out to our panel. Linda Cooper wanted to know, does the letter of intent have to be mailed?
We cannot, NSA cannot suggest how you do it. We can't tell you to mail it. We can't even make you do it. We just encourage that it is done. It does, however you'd like to deliver it is totally up to you. And mailing, it sounds like a great idea. If anyone else wants to chime in who has actually provided letters, feel free.
Linda says thanks. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I will let you know that we will provide a copy of the of the NSA and DHS seals to include on those letters. So that is pretty awesome, I think. So maybe mailing is good.
So
Go ahead. This is Vera. Portia, do you want to inform our participants that after next webinar, there will be again a session where we can have a session if indeed people have questions, and we can pose the answers to it. So if you, between now and then, you have additional questions, there will be a time for you for these to be answered.
Sure. And you know, I'm just going to break out of the PowerPoint presentation and just put my CyberWatch email. If you have questions that you want us to cover at the next meeting, send it to Portia, P-O-R-T-I-A, at cyberwatchcenter.org. And feel free to email me questions to add to not the next PowerPoint presentation, because that's going to be on criteria and mapping, but we are going to do another question and answer. And please forgive me for not knowing the date. I will send it out in the email, our thank you email. Margaret has volunteered to send an example of the letter that she sent out as her letter of intent. And Margaret, if you want to also send that to me, I'll make sure that goes out with our thank you letter. And Linda Cooper wants to know if her institution has been added to the list yet. Is that something that you want me to ask Denisha?
No, does she mean the list of National CyberWatch list or the NSA list?
NSA.
And what's your institution?
For mapping. Linda, would you put your institution in the chat, please?
And when did you map? Okay, I guess I need to understand what list do you mean?
To start the process. So you haven't mapped yet. You're going to be a new applicant, right? Yeah. Right.
And you contacted the office already or you went to the website to request that your college is added?
I think she's referring maybe to the application or the letter of intent.
I'm sorry, Linda, I'm really sorry that I don't remember, but I can do it right this moment while we're talking, honestly. I'll go check right now.
Also, Linda might be encouraged to be part of the next webinar, because we are going to go over all the criteria and the KU mapping in greater detail. So that might be helpful.
She said she'll be there. Well, actually what she said was absolutely, but I think that means she'll be there.
Good.
So Linda, she's checking. In the meantime, does anyone else have any questions or comments or suggestions? Well, terrific. Does the panel have anything else they want to share with the group?
I don't have anything further. I think Karen is on the line. Karen, did you have anything to share?
Okay, yeah, I had to unmute myself. The dog wouldn't stop barking. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you well.
Okay, sorry about that. Denisha did a great job explaining everything. I don't really have anything to add.
Well, terrific. Well, thank you for coming in, and we hope your dog is feeling well. And so at this point, we'll wrap it up, and I will thank the panel. I will thank all of you for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for mapping, and then I think it's in 3 weeks for the last set of question and answers, and we would love to have you all join us. Many thanks to everyone, and have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.